Hello, everyone. We had a little challenges, but we are here. We are not in studio, as you know. We are doing this thing virtual because, as you know, the whole world basically is at home. We are at the stay on order, but this is the Book Talk Show where we meet every second Sunday of the month. I'm Dr. Sharon, and my co-hosts are with me. We're going to kick it off with Courtney. Courtney, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Courtney Davis. I'm excited to be here once again in two places, my home and on the Book Talk Show.
Absolutely. Becky, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Becky Baldwin, and I am the founder of Emerge Inc. And I am, Emerge Inc. is dedicated to a lifestyle embedment through wellness choices, and I am working remotely too from home.
Absolutely. Mr. Eric M. Twiggs.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. I'm the author of The Discipline of Now, 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. I help you to beat procrastination so you can make more money, get more done, and become aligned with your divine purpose.
Awesome. And Miss Laverne M. Purley.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be back on the Book Talk Show again. I'm Laverne M. Purley from Sisters in Transition Outreach. I'm ready for another exciting session.
And Laverne wins the virtual background. We all wish we were exactly where she is right now.
Yes.
So guys, we are not going to hold any further because we have two amazing guests today that has joined us. And it's just so unfortunate that technology stumbled us, but where there is a will, there is a way. So we're going to keep it moving. Our first guest is Kwame Sarfo-Mensah. He is the founder of Identity Talk Consulting, LLC. That is an independent education and consulting firm. He is also the author of two amazing books that I cannot wait to begin to talk about: Shaping the Teacher Identity and From Action to Inaction. And there he is, Mr. Kwame Sarfo-Mensah. Welcome, Kwame.
Hey,
Welcome.
what's going on, Dr. Sharon? What's going on, everybody?
I tell you, thank you so much for hanging on with us. I'm so excited. I had the opportunity to meet you at one of the Black Educators Rock Conference, actually the most recent one, and I was very intrigued with you. Had an opportunity to read your first book, and now you got a second book. Oh my goodness. So what I would like for you to do before we get in with the books is just tell us a little more about who Kwame is.
Sure. So my name is Kwame Sarfo-Mensah. I was born here in the States. Both of my parents are from Ghana, West Africa, so I'm a first-generation immigrant. Grew up in Connecticut and spent a lot of time in Philadelphia where I went to school, so I am a proud graduate of Temple University.
Okay.
And after a few years in Philly, started teaching there, and I transitioned to Boston with my wife, and here I am in Boston.
Okay, awesome. I love it. And so we're going to look at your first book, Shaping the Teacher Identity. So, you know, you're an educator, and I love it. And you're, if I'm not mistaken, doing the founder of the Identity Talk Consulting, LLC, full time. Is that correct?
Yes, as of right now, yes.
Okay, that is awesome. So tell us a little bit about Shaping the Teacher Identity.
Well, absolutely. So Shaping the Teacher Identity is a book that's primarily for the early career educator, but any educator at any level can access this book. And the reason why I wrote it is because I had reached a saturation point in my career where I felt like everything that was going wrong was going wrong. I was fed up with my administrator. And I was at a point where, you know, you get to year 8, year 9, there are so many things that you've experienced throughout your career that you just don't have the time to process when you're on the go, when you're in the classroom teaching your students. So I actually had the luxury of writing Shaping the Teacher Identity during my paternity leave. So this is around time my son, who's now 2 years old, was first born. So in between changing diapers and reading up on babies, I was writing every day for 3 months. And then by the time I returned to work, the book was pretty much done. And I just spent the rest of that year editing and reformatting, doing my interviews with different educators who are featured in the book. So so I interviewed over 30 educators for the book, and there are about 20 educators that are in the book at various parts. But as far as what the book is about, is really about getting teachers to understand that their personal life experiences, their upbringing, are the main elements that shape who they are as change agents in the classroom. That's really the main premise of the book.
That sounds really awesome.
Yeah.
I too am an educator, and so I'm so interested in hearing what were some of the challenges that the educators mentioned to you in those interviews, those 20 educators mentioned.
Oh, there were various ones. There was actually one issue that popped up during my interviews was just the fact that a lot of educators felt like their voices weren't being heard.
Okay.
They felt like they would voice concerns to their administrators and higher officials, but it would go in one ear out the other. So there was a lot of conversation around that. But of course, as you all know, when you're in that space, you want to be there for your students. So you just compartmentalize those issues to do what you need to do for those students at that very time. So a lot of educators feel like they did that, but at the expense of their own self-care, their own personal wellness, because they knew that what was going on wasn't right ethically and morally, but because they didn't want to leave their kids behind, they just stuck with it and kept on going. So a lot of talk around that. And then I think just talk around students not having their needs met. So we always hear this saying that we have to Maslow before we bloom. So just taking care of those basic necessities, those essential personal needs before we can get to the academics, before we can get to the instruction, the pedagogy and everything else that, we talk about in education.
Yes.
Just prioritizing that before anything else.
So Kwame, this is Becky.
Yeah. How you doing, Becky?
Hi. So when interviewing the 20 educators that were a part of this book for you, did they have any difficulty or epiphanies about how their upbringing and their background really did mold how they were educators to their students?
Actually, if anything, it was maybe the opposite, because as I was interviewing a lot of these educators, they were able to connect moments in their childhood when they knew that they wanted to be teachers, or moments when they had role models who were there for them and they gave them those words of encouragement that they were able to carry throughout the rest of their lives up till now. Words that still permeate with them to this very day. So I think if anything, they were able to see how those moments that they experience shape and connect to the work that they do on a daily basis in the classroom.
Okay.
That's awesome. Hey, Kwame, Eric Twiggs here. First off, thank you for writing this book. The subtitle is 8 Lessons That Will Help Define the Teacher in You. Do you feel like, is there one lesson that's the most important for the readers to consider?
That's a tough question. But if I had to take, I would say I have a chapter on just the idea of overcoming adversity. So the name of the chapter is Baptism by Fire. Wow. And I write about my experiences early on in my career when I just started my grad school program. And I was in a charter school where I was just thrown into the wolves, so to speak. This fourth grade classroom had gone through 5 different teachers, and it was only October or November. And I was the next one up. And I can remember my principal saying to me, hey, just stay there for a month and hold tight until we can get a long-term substitute. So the intent was never for me to stay there the whole year. It was just for that 1 month, just to be a placeholder. And mind you, I don't have any experience. I didn't have anything in my toolbox at that time. So I just ended up doing what I thought was natural. Just connecting with students, learning on the go, putting in 14, 15 hours every day. And I was only getting paid maybe $15 an hour, no benefits, no health benefits. So I took a huge risk there. But, I know better now. That was about 15 years ago. So, and I think with that, with adversity, it's an important part of being a teacher. We're going to make mistakes, especially during those first few years. But what happens is people end up leaving the profession. That's why you have the high turnover rates, because they haven't built those like skills such as perseverance and just responding to adversity, which is so essential. So if you have a lesson that bombed, what do you do there? If a kid is being disrespectful to you, you might go home and cry, but then do you go back to the classroom the next day to address the student and that situation? Just things like that aren't really focused on in our teacher training programs. Those are things that I had experience on the go, and through trial and error, I was able to overcome it. But that's not the ideal way you want to develop into a teacher. You'd hope that you can front load some of these things when you're in your training program. So,
Kwame, thank you for sharing your experience. My question for you is, what made you, or what inspired you to explore a career as an education consultant?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier about just being fed up with the system, being fed up with the way that our students of color, particularly our Black and brown students, were being disadvantaged and not getting the essential resources necessary to push their learning to another level. And of course, being a Black male teacher, you learn to take on different identities.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't, you're conscious about your tone, you're conscious about the way you appear in the presence of your peers, particularly your non-melanated peers. You also you're just thinking about every aspect of who you are, to the point where you can get paranoid. And I felt like I was getting to that place where I always had to compromise. I always had to, be mindful of everybody else, but I wasn't really thinking about myself. I wasn't taking care of myself because I was so worried about how other people felt, particularly my colleagues. And after you get to a point where you're doing that, and then on top of that, your morals and your principles as an educator don't align with your school leader, and you're not seeing eye to eye, that's when you have to take a different route. And that's exactly what I did. I said, you know what, I'm going to write this book. And the funny thing is, with Identity Talk Consulting, it actually stems from the title of the book. So I said, okay, I wrote the book, now what? So a friend of mine said, hey, was this book a passion project, or do you want to spread this word to masses of people? Because not everybody reads a book. So that's when I start to think, well, each chapter could actually be a presentation or a PD session. And so it ultimately evolved into Identity Talk Consulting, LLC. So, which is what I do now. I provide professional development sessions, write books, writing articles, providing counsel to educators at all levels. And I mean, that's essentially, what I do now. And it all stemmed from the book. The book was the foundation for everything that's happening.
And I love that. And that had to really lead to your second book, Action to Inaction. First of all, I love the title. And we know that definitely that we have to take action. So I want you to tell us now, what was that book all about?
Oh, man. And I think it's divine intervention, because when you look at what's happening now with this COVID-19 pandemic, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to take full credit for the title and this prediction, because I didn't see this coming. I was done writing the book in November, well before this pandemic happened. So to have this book released a few weeks back in the midst of this is very fitting. So as far as the title, From Inaction to Inaction, you got to focus on the two words, inaction. When you're inactive, you're on the sideline. You're sitting on the bench. You're waiting for those higher officials, those politicians, to do the work for you. And that's what we tend to do in education. We complain, we commiserate with our peers. We might do it during a happy hour, and just to vent, just to get it all out. But we're not being solution oriented. We're just crying about what's going on. So if we can go from inaction to a state of inaction, where we separate the prefix in and the verb action, right? Now we're in the game. We're being solution oriented. We're trying to figure out how to address the issues, what the remedies are. And that's what we need to do. So the perfect example of this is with this COVID-19 pandemic. We can complain about the fact that we're not physically present with our students, and we're not able to communicate with their families in the way that we like. We have to shift our mental paradigm and think of ways in which we can better assimilate into this digital space. That's the inaction part. And I've seen so many educators step up to the plate and do so many incredible things with social media. I mean, I've seen teachers create channels, schools create channels on YouTube to provide digital lessons, enrichment to their students. I've seen teachers just take it upon themselves to start free tutoring, do free classes every day. So there's a lot of innovative things happening in this space that we need to highlight and pay attention to.
Kwame, hi, this is Courtney again.
How you
Do
doing?
you think the first book was for that early career instructor, right? The first couple of years. Yeah. Would the second book then be for a more seasoned teacher, or even for that teacher that wants to leave the instructional community and draw them back in?
All right, thank you for the question, Courtney. I would say it's for teachers at all levels, because the whole idea is this: education is a civil right. If you look back at our history, so many educators sacrifice to give us the opportunity, to go to school. You think about Booker T. Washington starting Tuskegee University. You think about Susie King Taylor. I think she's the first nurse from the military who actually started a school. She started a school for freedmen. This was during, I believe, the Civil War era. I mean, if you look online or go to the books, you could see it for yourself. But people have done it in the past. And now we're kind of in a place where we have to take on that tradition and get back to that. We got to start this revolution. Because the way the system is now, it was never designed for Black and brown people to begin with. I mean, that's a fact. So now we have to figure out a way to revamp what's happening and provide a better system, a better alternative what we've been doing for so many years. And that's really the spirit of the book. So any educator can access this book and be a part of the struggle.
Kwame, so in the book, From Inaction to Inaction,
yes,
what's your favorite part that you feel, although you weren't planning and we didn't foresee this social teaching being something that we'd be doing so quickly, what's the favorite part of your book that you feel now is really going to resonate in this environment?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. I love these questions. I think I would say I have a chapter on career development programs for secondary schools. And it actually stems from an episode of this show called Trigger Warning with the rapper Killer Mike. It's on Netflix. But basically the whole premise of that chapter is we need to change the way that we do education. Obviously, we're going to focus on the math. We're going to focus on science, reading the more traditional subjects. But we have to understand that the millennials are digital natives. They are interacting more and more with technology, and we have to catch up to that and let them know that there are different options as far as careers. You know, I know for myself, I was fortunate to go to college, get my master's and bachelor's degree. But after I finished my bachelor's degree, I still didn't know what I was going to do. And I had spent 5 years of undergrad. All that money spent. And that's all because I didn't really have that orientation as far as what careers I could pursue during my K to 12 years. Mm-hmm. So what I'm suggesting is, why do we have to wait till college? Let's push it earlier. Let's start maybe at the high school level. The way that we choose majors when we get into our freshman year of college, we should be doing that at the high school level so that kids can get those skills right away. And by the time they do graduate, they'll get either a certificate, just like you would at a vocational school, mm-hmm. and go right into the job market, or they can continue to pursue higher education. But I think we have to get back to that, because trying to pigeonhole kids into different careers, that's not the solution. And we have to understand that we have to engage the kids with what they want, not what we think they need.
Right.
That's a great point, Kwame. So, inaction to inaction. I love that title. So, what are some other simple steps that our followers can take to get in action?
Okay. So I have a chapter called Awakening the Activist Spirit. And within that chapter, I provide some suggestions and tips that anybody could take. For one, join. I know there's negative talk about unions and teacher unions, but you can join your union in your state or city. You can even go to town halls, because wherever district you are, there's always going to be some meetings where parents and stakeholders are invited. But for some reason, there's always low attendance of parents there. So when these big decisions happen, parents are usually the last ones to know, particularly parents who are in marginalized communities, like the ones that we work in. So I think doing that, joining a teacher organization like Black Educators Rock, like ASCD, there's so many of them out there. Become a member of a teacher organization or a nonprofit. I mean, there's so many things we can do.
That's definitely being in action. Kwame, I just have one question. In light of the transition that educators have had to make due to COVID, are there any opportunities that you may know of where there are some collaboration resources that teachers could use to share amongst each other as consultants for educating themselves on using assistive technology?
I think there is an abundance of resources out there. I think that's been, if anything, that's been one of the issues that people voice during this pandemic, is the fact that it's just too much. It's like an oversaturation of resources. So I know Dr. Sharon mentioned the fact that, well, everybody's on Zoom. Everybody and their mama's on Zoom. And Zoom is a great platform. I love Zoom. But with all the people, with the increase of people in recent weeks who have joined Zoom, it's slowed down the bandwidth, and it's lowered its, effectiveness, for lack of a better term. It's not as reliable as it's been in the past, because now you have more people on there taking up that bandwidth space. But I would say, if you go on social media channels, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, there's always chats going on where educators are engaging. I know there's BME's Black Male Educators Talk that happens every Tuesday at 8 p.m., I believe. There is a hip hop ed chat that also happens on Twitter. I believe that's either a Monday or a Tuesday, but it happens at 9 o'clock, usually for an hour. YouTube, there's channels, there's so many resources. I would just say go out there and just explore.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And Kwame, we thank you so much. Where can people, first of all, purchase both of your books, and where can they follow you on social media?
Oh, absolutely. I'll start with my social media handles. So on Facebook, you can follow me as Kwame Sarfo-Mensah, my full name, or you can like the Identity Talk Consulting LLC page. On Instagram, my handle is Kwam, KWAM _ the _ identity _ shaper. On Twitter, my handle is Identity Shaper. And as far as the books, you can get them on Amazon, or you can go to the website identitytalkforeducators.com. For anyone who would like to purchase a copy, I'm doing a quarantine sale. So you can get both. So you can get both of these books for $25.
I love it.
And
Awesome.
you can send those payments to either a Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal.
Awesome. Well, we thank you. We thank you so much. And I just wish you continued success in your business as well as your book. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Dr. Sharon, and thank you everybody for inviting me.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
What a wonderful, wonderful segment. And I'm so excited. We have so many people that are jumping on Zoom. Thank you so much. We had technical difficulties, so we could not go live like we had originally planned. But thank you for joining. We have several people that are watching, and we are so excited because our next guest, he is ready. He is ready to jump in. He is author Sam G. Puryear Jr. He is the former Michigan State University golf coach. He is the Big Ten Coach of the Year. And now I just recently found out that he is the director of golf at the real HU. You knew that was coming.
Come on, Dr. Sharon.
You knew that was coming, Sam. That is a going joke for us. We have two Hamptonites on this and two Howard Bisons on here. So we are always debating about the real HU, but we know. So we are so excited to welcome Sam Puryear to the show.
Appreciate
Welcome.
well, I guess if there's two and two, I guess I'll break the tie.
You break the tie. That's it. We already know.
Here we go.
So we are so excited to have you here. And I just a disclaimer, Sam and I are high school classmates. classmates, and I haven't seen you probably in over 30 years, Sam.
Or at least.
Wow.
So it is just so amazing. And when we scheduled you to come on the show, I did not know you were coming to Howard.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, wow. So welcome to the DMV. Welcome to Howard. We're so excited. And certainly when all of this quarantine is over, we've got to get you in studio.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you so much. You have this wonderful new book that's out. And, you know, I just want you to tell us all about it because, first of all, golf and our people have become increasingly paired, but we know that it was not always like that.
Well, so, I'll be honest with you, Doc. It's actually not a golf book. Okay. Now, golf was the impetus for making the change, but the real emphasis was taking some young people in some of the worst living conditions you can imagine, just from a neighborhood scenario, and giving them an opportunity to basically level the playing field and allow some of their dreams to come true. Golf essentially has given me more than I could have ever imagined. And it's funny because I know you grew up, you know, less than 5 minutes from a golf
course. That's it.
I was less than 6 minutes from the same golf course.
Yes.
But that being said, it's amazing what golf allowed me to do in that community. And these young people, not only did they defy the odds, but they broke the stereotypes. They went to college. They got degrees. And now they're living very productive lives. They're 31 and 32-year-old people right now, which is pretty amazing, actually.
Wow. And it was Eastlake.
Absolutely.
Eastlake, wow. So I want you to just dive in a little bit, because with these young people that are now adults, basically,
yes.
Golf, you know, and you said you've taken them out, helped, gave them what they needed. I just want to hear, how do you foresee that happening on a consistent basis? Because what you did needs to be repeated, correct?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's one of the interesting things that really excited me about coming to Howard, because when I sat down with the athletic director, Mr. Davis, and I sat down with the president, Dr. Frederick, I mean, we talked about taking that community around Langston Golf Course and being able to do some of the same things for a lot of the young people in the DMV area. Because I think oftentimes, knowing that young people don't know what they don't know, if they've never been exposed to something, it's easier for them to say, well, I don't like it. Well, my goal is to expose them. And I think having a really unique scenario of creating an incredible program golf-wise will do a couple things. One, it'll show the young people what can be. And two, it'll show them that, you know, education is probably, like I put in the book, what my parents taught me, it's really the only key to unlock the change to freedom for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Coach P, that's a great segue. This is Dr. Davis coming at you.
Hey, Doc.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I want to know, because you have 2 educators for parents.
Yes.
And how much of their lessons, how much of those lessons impacted you to the point where now you're impacting the lives of other young people?
Yeah, I hear their voice in my words all the time when I'm speaking to young people. It's interesting because you don't even realize what you're learning when you're learning it as a kid.
Yes.
And so my parents, one thing I loved about my parents is if I did right, they patted me on the back. Okay. If I did wrong, they chastised me. And so I didn't receive a trophy if I didn't win. You know, at the end of the day, you know, it wasn't all about getting to the goal line, or sometimes it was the process. And they taught me that process would create the ultimate scenario. My dad always said, it's funny, my dad is blind now, but his words are still true. He has this saying, he says, your altitude will always determine your mental state will always determine your altitude. And he's right. Right.
Yeah.
Sam, this is Becky. I can hear what motivated you, but what motivated you to do the book to do it now and follow this subject line? What was the motivation behind that?
Great question. Yeah, you know what's funny? When I was working with those kids many, many years ago, I started writing it because I said, you know what? I said, this is something that needs to be modeled, and other young people need to understand that they too can be successful. And so as I started to basically break down, I mean, I incorporated those kids into my own personal life. So those kids took vacations with me. I mean, they became a part of my family. They met my parents. They spent time with my brother and my, you know, my kids, the whole 9 yards. And what I realized was I had developed an extension of what I had been taught. And so I said, if I put it in words, a lot of young people nowadays will be able to pick it up and say, you know what? I've been dealt a pretty bad hand. If we're playing spades right now, somebody just gave me all the hearts. I can't cut anybody. But if you realize that if you play cards long enough, the hands will change. And you have to remain diligent. You have to remain persistent. And you cannot be willing to just accept no. You can determine your outcome if you're willing to put the work in.
That's excellent, Sam. Eric Twiggs here. And I was reading the description of your book. And you please explain this to me, because this really grabbed my attention. It says, success is often dressed as a stranger, but upon closer inspection is our reflection in an unpolished mirror.
Absolutely. I sat down, that came to me one day, because to me, that's the truth. So many people are willing to sell us on what success really is. And when we look in the mirror, half of us buy that reflection. But realistically, upon closer inspection, when we really close our eyes, we really are all unfinished, unpolished gems. Hence, we're all in some respect a diamond in the rough. And when we add that pressure, we become priceless. There are things that we have to do. There are things that have to be done, steps that have to be taken in order to achieve what we think we can achieve. Because at the end of the day, I think we should be the ones to find our own success.
Mr. Prior, let me ask you a question. Do you see yourself in the future providing internships or a capstone course for athletic students who want to pursue a career in sports management, or developing a curriculum designed for that?
Absolutely. I think the way a golf program works is twofold. One, you're providing an incredible student athlete collegiate experience, which means that they're doing well in school, which means they're going to class, they're enjoying the collegiate experience, they're working hard at their craft, which in my respect is golf. But they're also thinking, you know, when my philosophy is, when you come play for Coach P, you're not coming to play for me for 4 years. You're coming to play for 40 years, because you've now developed a family. It's a 40-year process. Those same people that you're going to meet when you walk on the yard as a freshman, 40 years from now will be those same persons that will be involved in your life. You will have developed those partnerships, relationships, and those things pretty important that will help, whether it's change industry, change government, change the world. You'll be surprised. And so to me, the internships, the co-ops, the job opportunities, the people hand, one thing I tell all of my players, I think that every player for me should basically have an elevated speech, but you have it on a business card. You can go to Kinko's or Twitter, or some level of office place and create a 30-second card to where if you meet a nice old lady in the elevator or at the airport, she says, "Hey, you look mighty nice. Where are you and your team going?" "Hello, my name is so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm from so-and-so. My major is so-and-so. My GPA." And all of a sudden she says, "Wow, I might like to hire that guy or that young lady." That's how I think collegiate athletics works.
I love it. I love it. Sam, you talked about meeting Jim and Chuck Thorpe in Charlotte. Tell me about that, because you met them on a golf course, actually.
Yeah, actually, I go even before that time, when I was able to meet Jim Thorpe and Chuck and Althea Gibson at Winston Lake.
Wow, really?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going back now to like 1980, to the years ago.
Wow.
And when you realize those kind of people are out there, that a lot of our young people, I was just blessed to meet them, and golf provided so many avenues and outlets for me. I mean, that's history. I mean, to think of what Althea Gibson did, not only as an LPGA member, but to win Wimbledon, to win the French Open, she was unreal. And then to think what Chuck Thorpe and what Jim Thorpe did and have done, coming from a true golfing family. They followed their father. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. So that's one thing golf can also provide, because number one, you can do it when you're 17 and 18 years old, but you can also do it when you're 77 and 78 years old.
I love it.
Play golf for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Sure.
Let me ask, Big Ten Golf Coach of the Year. Okay, you've got to tell us about that feeling of receiving that honor.
Well, I'll be honest, it's one of those deals where it was like winning a national championship at Stanford. Like walking down the final fairway. I had one of my players at the time at Stanford, before I even got to Michigan State, Joe Bramlett. He said, "Hey, Coach, is this really happening?" Well, that's exactly how I felt winning the Big Ten championship. You walk down a fairway and you say, I cannot believe that this is happening. All the hard work, your whole life, you work so hard to say, man, we are the best at something. All the practice, all the 5 and 6 o'clock workouts, all the class checking, all the making them eat properly, all the stressing those kids out about going to class and taking exams on the road, all the wearing that tie, being dressed up to catch that plane, and then to actually compete and to win. It's a feeling that's pretty unbelievable, actually.
And you have, before we ask a question, one of our viewers, Andy Walker, he says, "I just want to say hello, Coach P. You've been a great friend and mentor for me. You will do great at Howard, and I can't wait to read your book. Much love, A-Dub."
Well, Andy is, in all fairness, yeah, I may have mentored him in all fairness, but Andy is an unbelievable golf coach. He's also now won some national championships. And you know what? It's funny you bring that up. My goal was to jump out in the water with the sharks and be willing to be eaten, so that guys like Andy and others will come behind me and be unscathed. and to see what guys like Andy are doing now, for me, makes me say, job well done.
Awesome.
Coach P, readers want to know, will there be a sequel to your first book, and will it focus on Howard students?
Well, if you notice how I ended the book, I sat on the ending intentionally, waiting for this job offer to materialize.
Uh-huh.
And so I ended it and said, "Hey, I just got a call. I'm now headed to DC. I'll be the new director of golf at Howard." I set it up and opened it for the second book.
All right, we'll be waiting. We'll be waiting for it.
So this is Becky. So can you tell us a little bit about the process of writing this book? Like, how long did it take? How did you really jump into it? What was the process for you, Coach P?
Well, I thought about it inside and out. So what I mean by that is I thought about what young people I felt like had really had an opportunity to change their lives. And so that automatically gave me between 4 and 7 young people. And from there, I literally just wrote from my heart, because I had lived this with these kids. I had literally lived it. I had lived it where, just in a short scenario, I had lived it where 2 kids are on a golf course and they're falsely accused. This is what makes it interesting. They're falsely accused by a CEO at SunTrust after he's watching on TV 4 black kids, and he says, "Wow, 2 of those black kids robbed me." And he calls the police. The police arrest 2 of the 4 kids, and their description is, well, one kid, he said, was about 5'8", 5'9". He said one kid was about 5'10", short and pudgy. Well, the one kid they arrested was 6'3", and the other kid was 6'5". And so to think that 2 of my kids go to jail right after signing a national letter of intent to go to college to play golf for something that they had nothing to do with, is not only is it insane, it's unconscionable. And so that prompted me to really write the story within itself. Now, that story started many, many, many years ago, but yet fast forward to 2020, that scenario was still happening. Yeah. And that's when I realized I needed to get the book done, because I sat on this book for years. I sat on it for years. But when I realized what's still transpiring today, and thankfully, one of the people I mentioned in the book, Tom Cousins, he still is a rich older white guy in Atlanta. At that time, he was worth about $950 million. What would have happened if Mr. Cousins hadn't come to the defense financially for those boys? Those boys tell me, when I talk to them to this day, they say, Mr. Sam, we could still be in jail today for something that we didn't do if big money hadn't decided to support our cause.
Wow.
That's what makes the book very powerful. And that's why I think all young people around the United States in high school need to read this book, because we can think we're doing the right thing, but oftentimes that can be mistaken for something else depending on which lens someone is looking through.
So Sam, there's a theme throughout your book about overcoming challenges, overcoming early challenges.
Yes.
There are people that are watching this now that they've got challenges they're dealing with and they don't see a way out. They don't see themselves in your position where they're writing a book and they're talking to people about it. What advice do you have for that person to help them to rise above their challenge?
That's a great question. I look at it almost like the day, as my dad would say, as the day is long. Think about it. Every day that you wake up, outside looks different. Some days are cloudy, depending on the season and weather changes. Some days it rains, some days it snows, some days it's cloudy, but it's still a day. Having an opportunity to live another day doesn't mean that you won't have a challenge. And I promise you, as difficult as your situation is, and I know there are some dire circumstances, there are people out there and it is worse. But if you stay prayed up, you read the good book, and you believe in the power of faith, it doesn't take much to believe. If you believe in what you believe in, focus on what you're focusing on, your truth can overcome, because your circumstances are only temporary.
That's
Wow.
great.
Thank you
Powerful.
for sharing that.
Thank you. I enjoyed that as well. My last question for you, as you have worked with youth in the past and mentored them, have you considered partnering with nonprofit organizations to help those at-risk youth use golf as a deterrent to other distractors that children from disadvantaged programs could actually explore golf as an alternative to provide a better quality of life for themselves and introduce them to new skills, a different way to deter them from the things that would force them to become statistics in society?
Yes, ma'am. I've tried to do that my entire life. I mean, I've already reached out to a lot of different organizations in the DMV area. And my goal right now is to expose them, acclimate them to something that can change their life. Because, you can play basketball and football, and those are exciting games because I played them as well. But I'll be honest with you, golf is the one place where I can actually say you can meet presidents, you can meet kings, you can also meet the wonderful people that are sweeping the floors to make their walk that much cleaner. There's no other sport that I can think of which will allow kings and the common man to walk the same level of grass and get the same exhilaration out of that same experience. I can't think of anything better than that, because on the golf course, we all tee the ball up the same. I don't have to have $1 in my pocket to beat you. You can be the richest man in the world. You can be the richest man in the world, but you can still get your brains beat in on the golf course. And I love it. There's no hue. The only hue that matters, the only melanin that really matters, that golf ball is white when we tee it up.
I love it.
That's the ball we have to advance and move forward.
I love it. We have another question. It's a Golf Howard related question. It's from Ty. She says, or he, I'm not sure if it's a male or female, but they wanted to know, will there be both men and women golf at Howard?
Yeah, we're actively right now recruiting for a men's and a women's team. And I can tell you right now, in April, that is a task. But I'm excited for the challenge. So we will have a competing men and women's program in the fall, which is really exciting. We've already gotten a schedule for the men and the women's team, and that's exciting as well. So they'll see a varying level of competition, a high level of competition. And I don't think, is there anything better than competing? I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm so amped up right now. I'm ready to go. Can I put on a mask and shave 35 years off and go get it right now? Because I'm really amped up right now. I'm excited.
This is so awesome. We will definitely be waiting to see what's in store for the Bison Golf. We are all excited here so much, and I'm just filled with just humbleness, you know, just to know great things definitely comes from Carver High School.
You better believe
without
it.
a doubt.
You better believe it.
And without a doubt. And this is just proof evermore. We can go on and on at all the greatness that has spewed out of East Winston. So
Right.
I just want to say thank you, Sam. But truly, once this is all over, we're going to have you in studio, because by that time you will have your golf team in place. And we can talk a little more about golf.
That sounds good.
So I'm just so excited. We just want to say welcome. And also, please let people know where they can purchase this book, and also your social media following.
Yeah, the book right now is available on Amazon. Diamonds in the Rough. Just put in Samuel G. Puryear Jr. pops up. My Twitter name, if you want to go to Twitter, is @CoachP13. If you want to go to Instagram or Facebook, just, you know, it's Sam Puryear and it shows up. I'm excited. The book is a fantastic read, and it's an easy read. It's a very easy read. It just flows. You don't want to put it down. I mean, it's funny. I wrote the book, and I'm serious. I read it at least 13 times.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Just so grateful, and hopefully you will be able to go back. Not sure how often you're back in Winston, but you know, it's a different time and place, you know, at Carver, but we're trying to uplift, work with the principal there so that we can get Carver back to the greatness that we experienced.
That's exactly right. Well, I want to also say I'm excited and I'm proud of you. I mean, the things that you've done,
Thank you.
I've watched you from afar. I mean, that's not a small task. I mean, you've worked very diligently to do what you've done.
Thank
And
you.
it's been exciting to know, number one, that you live less than 400 yards away, but
That's
number
right.
two, that we grew up together, and to see some of the amazing things you've done in that area are really fantastic.
Thank
So
you.
I want to say special kudos and shout outs to you as well.
Thank you so much. We are so excited to have you. So guys, Samuel Puryear, the new director of golf and author of Diamonds in the Rough. I tell you, Sam, we are just so grateful to have you here today. And it's all eyes and ears open looking at Howard Golf at this point.
Right.
Just know that.
Well, let the listeners know. Expect a phone call.
Okay. I love it.
We will be calling for some help. I promise you.
Absolutely. And I really think that the community is going to rally behind you. We are Bison proud, even for those who did not attend Howard. It's okay. We know that we love Howard in the DMV. So you definitely will have that support without a doubt, I'm certain.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to meeting everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Guys, definitely go purchase that book and follow Sam so you can keep up with what's going on at Howard. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Just amazing, right? We definitely will be looking out for all of that good stuff. Guys, we are near the end, so we need to find out what's going on with you guys, what's coming up. Because I know once this quarantine is over, we have things to do. And I know, Dr. Davis, you have a festival that's coming up.
Absolutely. As I'm so excited to share, Dr. Sharon and the rest of the squad here at the Book Talk Show. Mark your calendars for Saturday, October 10th, 2020. We are planning for the 7th annual East of the River Book Festival. And we are looking forward to being in the presence of each other there.
Exactly.
Worst case scenario, we'll take it online, but we are definitely planning to have it there in Ward 8 in Washington, D.C. So we are very excited. We're planning. Please, all the readers and writers, go to our our website, www.eotrbookfest.com. That's eotrbookfest.com, because the application or registration form will be available this week. So we're very excited. We want people to start registering early if they want to participate in the festival. That said, we are collaborating with the Office of State Superintendent of Education, because we are highlighting authors that have participated in the East of the River Book Festival in the past. So we're highlighting them every day for the month of April. And so every day, if you go to our Facebook page at EOTR Book Fest on Facebook and on IG, you will see an author, a bio, information about that author and how to purchase that book. We're very excited about that. And one last thing is that we are now part of a reading series. Awesome. So I was the first author to participate last week. We have another EOTR author, and her name is Tamra Ray Stevenson, and she will be on the EOTR Book Fest Facebook page, on Tuesday, April 14th at 11 o'clock a.m. Ready to read out loud. So please, all the young readers and writers, they need to show up and be entertained.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Miss Becky, what's going on? Body by Becky, what's going on?
I am changing bodies in April. My client base has increased this month. I've had some great success stories that I can't wait to share. I am also working with this quarantine time. I am spending time on working on my first book that I am the only contributing author.
Awesome.
And I'm very excited. It's about my family, so I'm very excited. And I wanted to announce this month that I would be participating in the Prince George's Community Library as an author. Awesome. And my library book will actually be in the public library system within PG County. However, that has been deferred given our state of emergency, but I'm looking forward to when I can announce that it's going to be happening and people can come out and see my book, purchase my book, and so many other authors, local authors who are participating in this event for Prince George's Community Library.
Awesome. And what about Books with the Baldwins? Tell us about that.
Oh, my daughter and I love books. So this is not by chance that I'm on the book talk show with Dr. Sharon and you. We love books and we love to read always. And so with the quarantine, we tried to do something collaboratively. And we decided 2 weeks ago to start doing book chat with the Baldwins.
Book chat with the Baldwins.
And it was just for fun, but it really has taken off. People really like it. And we just talk about what books we're reading this week, or a book that meant something to us that we want to tell other people about it a little bit, maybe get them motivated into reading, finding something to do that is where you can get away and escape. And that's what you can do when you read, right? You can just, you can transport yourself to a whole nother situation, a whole nother life, and a whole nother century or decade. And so that's what we are doing with the book chat with the Baldwins.
I love it. Very good. And Eric Twiggs.
All right. So you know how we've got the 30-minute hour podcast, where it's our standard show that I host along with Ted Fells and Britton Smith. Well, we've added a second show just for this season. It's called the 30-minute hour live on lockdown.
I love it.
It's the place where you can unwind, unplug, and let your hair down. It's live on Facebook on the 30-minute hour Facebook page every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. We've got comedians, we have artists. It's just fun. We're getting barraged with all this negative news about the lockdown. This is where you can go to unwind and laugh. Now, we're still doing our regular show, but we've changed that. That's now on Facebook Live every week. But you can also catch it on your favorite podcasting platform. I'm also excited. This coming Monday, April 13th, you definitely want to mark your calendar. I've got Vinod Menton. She's interviewing me. She is interviewing me from Malaysia. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the topic of our talk is no time to waste. We're going to talk about procrastination and productivity, overcoming procrastination and productivity improvement principles from my book, The Discipline of Now. It's going to be 9 a.m. Eastern time. You can go to the Discipline of Now Facebook page and click on the link to register. That way you can join me live on Monday at 9 o'clock, where you can watch us and you can also type in questions for me to answer to help you to become more productive.
Awesome, awesome. And Miss Laverne, what's going on?
Right now, everything is on hold for me. We are waiting to hear more about the current state of affairs and whether or not we'll be traveling. I believe we're going to be postponing our travel to the fall, but I don't have the exact date yet. But as soon as I do, I'll provide an update.
Okay, awesome. I love it. And I just have a few more series that's coming out. My lead series, the Women Who Lead, Principles 2 is coming out, and the Young Ladies Who Lead. I am so excited about these individuals. They are our millennials that are really doing the thing, and I love it. And they're ready to share their stories on how they lead. Also, another HBCU experience anthology is coming out. The Howard University will be released this summer, and the Kentucky State will be released in about 2 weeks. So we are still giving back to our HBCUs. Extremely proud of that. And so, guys, we are just hoping and praying. And I didn't say in the beginning, but I trust that your families, your immediate and extended families, are staying safe throughout this, because I tell you, we're there are jokes, we're quarantined with this, but we're safe. That's the bottom line. We are safe, and I'm grateful because I know so many have been affected by this pandemic. So I trust that all of you all, your families, are safe. So guys, we just want to say thank you, and thank you for hanging in with us with our technical difficulties. But as I always say, where there's a will, there is certainly a way. So we want to say thank you from all of us, from Dr. Courtney Davis, Becky Baldwin, Eric M. Twigg, Laverne M. Purley, and Dr. Sharon. We want to say thank you for joining us for another episode of the Book Talk Show. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.